How is it going, everyone? Got an interesting ShiftUp and Stellar Blade update to go over for you guys. If you are wanting Stellar Blade to potentially be a day one PC game, this is potentially a very good sign. So we'll talk about that, and also Resident Evil Requiem. I gotta talk a little bit about that. I have completed the game. I've talked about it a bit already, but we have some numbers to go over, and they are looking very positive. You know, I love seeing Resident Evil do well because it's one of those games that, yes, it's $70. It's the first Resident Evil game that was priced at $70, and you can complete the game in, what, 10, 12 hours, even quicker than that if you really speedrun it. But it's one of those games, man, that's all killer, no filler at an incredibly high level, and just so happy to see the success of that game. We'll go over some of the numbers and my thoughts on the game. I think it was incredible, one of the early contenders for Game of the Year, so we'll get to that at the end of this video. But first of all, as noted on Automaton Media, Stellar Blade developer ShiftUp is looking to strengthen its self-publishing capabilities. I would imagine that because Stellar Blade, the publishing was handled on both the PC and the console versions by PlayStation, PlayStation made a pretty penny off of that because they published the game, and given the success of Stellar Blade, I'm sure ShiftUp looked at that and they're like, maybe in the future, Sony was a big help for getting Stellar Blade out, but now that the IP's established, we want to keep a significant portion of that revenue, which Sony will eat into, and Sony doing the publishing, they have the right to eat into that. But as noted, the company has recently opened recruitment for several positions related to localization, marketing, and PR, with the job listing stating ShiftUp is preparing for a new leap forward in the global market. Beyond the worldwide success of Goddess of Victory Nikke and Stellar Blade, we aim to expand our self-publishing capabilities to support internally developed titles across consoles and PC. A ShiftUp representative told Game Mecca that this move is meant to boost ShiftUp's means of supporting in-house titles for the long term, in line with the studio's recent growth. While ShiftUp has previously self-published titles like Destiny Child, which did end services, CEO Taehyung Kim suggested the company would remain primarily focused on development after its listing, with self-publishing remaining a potential option for the long term. However, it seems the company is now taking definitive steps towards publishing its own games. We do know that Stellar Blade does have a sequel in development, and a publisher for that has not been yet announced. Sony now in a position where it does seem like they are trying to create more of a value proposition in-house on PlayStation. The talk of them limiting the games that they're going to be dropping on PC, because now it seems like Steam, and they certainly should be viewing Steam as more of a competitor. With the numbers that the games have been pulling on Steam, Capcom recently said that 50% of their sales numbers are coming via the PC platform. It's a viable contender now, and on top of that, Valve is going to be releasing their own console as well. I would imagine that PlayStation, at the very least, should have discussions with ShiftUp to get some sort of deal done for Stellar Blade 2. I'm sure ShiftUp, on the other hand, does want to release that game on PC right out the gate, given the numbers that Stellar Blade 1 pulled on PC on a delayed release. Stellar Blade 2, we know that game now is going to be a juggernaut. That IP has exploded, and if you can get that game as a timed exclusive on PlayStation, from Sony's vantage point, I'm sure that's something they want to do, because that's a valuable title for them to be an exclusive on their platform. However, from ShiftUp's lens, you want to make that IP bigger and bigger. You want it to continue growing, and handicapping yourself by releasing a game only on one platform right out the gate, that absolutely handicaps the ceiling for the IP. If you release it right out the gate on PC, that means more people are playing the game on day one. More people are talking about it. You're getting that inherent kind of social media buzz, because more people playing the game means more people talk about the game, more people tell the game about their friends. It's just a snowball effect. That is the aspect of all of this that people don't calculate, and I've been talking about it quite a lot when we talk about exclusivity and Sony pulling away from PC. There are these invisible metrics that people don't account for when you're talking about exclusivity deals, and you see that with Final Fantasy as well. Why do you think Final Fantasy is going to a multi-platform approach? Because they want, Square Enix that is, wants to lift up the ceiling for this IP, which being only on PlayStation absolutely puts you at a hard cap. It could do well, it absolutely can, but why be locked to one ecosystem? Why not be on Nintendo Switch? Why not be on PC as well, day one? And by the way, Stellar Blade on Nintendo Switch, it would do incredibly well on there as well. Switch 2, that is, of course, and Stellar Blade 2 dropping on Switch 2 would do incredibly well as well. I'm sure Sony would like to have Eve kind of as a pseudo mascot for their platform. Absolutely, I think they would want to do that. Will they end up being able to secure a deal, or is a deal already in place? I don't know, but you would have to think they would want to. But at the same time, there is this weighing of the value proposition. If Sony comes in with a deal that is very, very financially rewarding for ShiftUp, obviously they probably will take it. But in terms of growing the Stellar Blade IP, and all of their other projects within the ShiftUp framework, I would imagine that going multi-platform, figuring out how to do the publishing on your own, for them, that would be the best long-term play. It's weighing those two options, but for Stellar Blade, given how well that game did on a delay on PC, I'm sure they would want that game on PC day one to continue growing the IP and raising that ceiling even more, and I think it could do incredibly well on PC. Like, dude, the game was peaking at incredible numbers on a delayed release. On a day one release on PC, I could easily see it flirting with 250, 300,000 concurrent players. I don't see that anyway as being too big of a stretch, and again, does Sony want to come into the picture and do something where it is an exclusive? That remains to be seen, but that's going to be a really interesting story to see play out, especially with the viability of the exclusivity deals in general going forward for Sony, because in the past, locking a game away from an irrelevant platform like Xbox, okay, but now these publishers have to weigh PC as a real opportunity because there's a gigantic audience there that they can make a lot of money. It's just like, okay, dude, we locked away Final Fantasy VII Remake from Xbox platforms. Not that big of a deal. Locking that game away from PC, potentially locking away Stellar Blade from PC, and Nintendo as well. Don't get it twisted on that. Absolutely, that's a question that I think is worthwhile having, and why you could do it if Sony's giving you a good deal, and why not to do it as well. So we'll see about all that. Speaking of which, I think a game that illustrates this point so well is Resident Evil Requiem. Let's talk about these PC numbers, because all-time peak for Resident Evil Requiem on Steam is 344,000 concurrent players. You guys, Resident Evil 4 Remake peaked at 168,000 concurrent players. Yes, this is a definitive statement on how hot Resident Evil has become as an IP. This is also, in my opinion, a definitive statement that PC gaming has exponentially grown, and Sony has taken notice to that. Capcom themselves have said 50% of their sales have come from PC. That's overall as far as all Capcom games. Look at the numbers Monster Hunter Wilds is pulling. It's a ridiculous amount, and yes, PC will always have that barrier of entry for the price point. However, there are a lot of people on PlayStation 5 that have jobs and have disposable income, and guess what? PC's looking to be a really attractive option for them, and I think a lot of those people have moved to PC, and I think a lot of the Xbox guys have moved to PC as well, and that's why these numbers are so high. Not only because of how well Resident Evil Requiem is as a game and how hot Resident Evil is as an IP, but also because of PC gaming just growing. And you might put the counter argument, then why aren't the PlayStation games doing that well? Well, the PlayStation games are coming out on significant delays. I think that's the reason. And guess what? Stellar Blade did do well. There are games that do well, but I think in the case of the Spider-Mans of the world, The Last of Us is, you know, dropping a Last of Us Part 1 as a garbage port 10 years after it initially came out. Okay, I don't expect it to do well. Spider-Man 2 being an atrocious PC version, and so on and so forth. Those games may be coming out day one, I think would do much better, but Requiem is doing staggering numbers, and on top of that, Resident Evil Requiem has outsold Village and Resident Evil 4 in physical sales in the UK. Bear in mind that Village came out in 2021, RE4 came out in 2023. The digital sales have just been growing and growing, so the physical sales outpacing the digital sales, I feel like says something as well. Resident Evil Requiem is a phenomenal game, and to me, more than anything, it is incredible to see Capcom making this outstanding turnaround with how hot Resident Evil is as an IP. Onimusha coming back. At the very least, we get these Mega Man collections, and we got Mega Man Overdrive coming out next year as well. Mega Man is back. Okami is getting a sequel. Monster Hunter Wild's kind of a train wreck there, especially from a performance standpoint, but a lot of what Capcom is doing is landing a lot. I think Monster Hunter Stories 3 looks incredible. Pragmata, I think, looks really solid. So I think there's a lot that Capcom is doing that's really good. And yeah, you have the blunders like Exoprimal and whatnot, but more often than not, you're getting some really good stuff out of them. And even with Monster Hunter Wilds being a train wreck, I mean, that game sold incredibly well, and I still thought it was a good game. Don't get me wrong, the performance was just insulting, to be perfectly honest, but Requiem is just an absolute home run. The game's also had an overwhelmingly positive reception on Steam, 22,000 reviews, 96% positive, and I legitimately think one of the greatest Resident Evil games of all time. I hate to say something so definitive just because there's that recency bias in place. Right now, I think I would rank it number 2 behind Resident Evil 4. I think there's an argument for it to be number 1, but I don't want to say that just because I want to wait a little bit, let the dust settle, and then replay the game after the recency bias is gone and the hype has died down a little bit so I can make a more clearer viewpoint on the game. I love the game, and I think number 2 I'm pretty comfortable with. I would put it above RE2, but that's just from what I like out of Resident Evil. I love the marriage of survival horror and action heavy. I just thought that worked really well. But, you know, for some people, RE2 outpaces. For some people, they loved Village and Biohazard. And hey, more power to you. For me, Requiem, number 2. And I feel good about saying that. It might get a little bit high. It might be number 1. But again, RE4, I've said, is in the pantheon of the greatest video games literally of all time. So I'm not comfortable in completely saying that right now. But again, I'll be playing through this game until I literally leave this earth. That's what I always say about the top level Resident Evil titles. They're that good. And put Requiem in there with RE2 and RE4 as games that I'll go back to for eons and eons. And, you know, you could put Biohazard and Village in there as well. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. As always, let me know your thoughts on Stellar Blade. Should they move to a multi-platform right out the gate release? I think there's a lot of potential in that for Stellar Blade 2. And given the numbers it pulled on PC, and that was on a delay, I think the ceiling can be incredibly high. And you see the ceiling of these titles doing well on PC, being risen higher and higher with how well Resident Evil has done. 330,000 concurrent players is just a staggering number, and Capcom's got to be very happy with that. And hopefully, you know, next year, Code Veronica, year after that, we'll see. I'm sure RE5 will get remade at some point, and whenever Resident Evil 10 does drop, I'm sure that'll be a juggernaut as well. That'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.